All right. We are now moving on to item 8.0, which is the superintendent's report. And at this time, I will turn it over to Dr. Little.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we have carefully and methodically focused on taking deliberate and purposeful steps designed to minimize student and staff exposure in order to keep them safe and, as a result, keep our community safe from COVID-19. We have also relied on guidance and expertise of the CDC, DHEC, and the South Carolina Department of Education, as well as other medical experts, as we've made those decisions. One of the reasons this district has such few cases of in-school spread is because of a variety of safety measures we have carefully implemented. Masks absolutely have played an essential role in our successful return to school. They have allowed us to limit our staff and student exposures and also allowed us to maximize face-to-face instruction. Our safety measures, as well as data-driven decision-making, have been some of the main reasons that we have been able to keep our schools open and return to 5-day-a-week instruction for all students. As more and more people get vaccinated and as we learn more science-based and factual information about the spread of COVID-19, we continue to adjust our plans and to move forward. So, for example, right now we are phasing out plexiglass in our schools, and you can see that even in the boardroom here today. We have also phased out plexiglass here in the auditorium. And we can do this because our safety measures keep school-related positive cases low, and the CDC has changed their guidance regarding plexiglass. Tonight, we've heard from citizens who want to change our schools' practices regarding masks. We realize that people are frustrated with masking and the pandemic in general. I certainly can appreciate that. We are all ready for the pandemic to be over, but unfortunately, we're not quite there yet. We have just over 5 weeks of school left in the school year. The CDC, DHEC, Department of Education, South Carolina Association of School Administrators, and local, state, and national medical experts tell us to keep masking for the rest of the year. I'm going to see if I can. Nope. Dr. Edward Simmer, he's the director of DHEC, says, although we are getting more and more South Carolinians vaccinated, we are not close to herd immunity. And from a public health standpoint, DHEC recommends, quote, that children should continue to wear a mask in school at least through the end of the year. Ryan Brown, South Carolina Department of Education, says that by following the mitigation strategies recommended by public health experts, South Carolina is only one of a handful of states in which every school is fully open to in-person learning. We would advise districts to continue to follow these guidelines. Beth Phibbs, I'm sorry, I skipped one. Well, I don't have one in my thing. Dr. Anna Catherine Birch, Division Director of Pediatric Infectious Diseases at Prisma Health Children's Hospital in the Midlands. She told us the CDC still recommends wearing masks indoors. So for the remainder of the school year, our recommendation is to continue to use masks with students and teachers. Beth Phibbs, the Executive Director of South Carolina Association of School Administrators, released a statement indicating that Governor McMaster actually signed Law S.147, which is the South Carolina COVID Liability Immunity Act. I'm not going to read you all that. The act tethers school districts even more closely to DHEC and their recommendations. Oh, I had those out of order. So there's Dr. Birch's. Did y'all get a chance to read all that? It's got a lot of legalese in that particular one. And then Dr. Nemick and Dr. Perez from the infectious disease specialists at Lexington Medical Center, they sent me an email that says, as we continue to adjust to life during an ongoing pandemic, it is important to continue to adhere to the advice from the CDC with ongoing masking in the classroom. More and more evidence in the scientific community demonstrates that masking, along with other mitigation strategies, help decrease transmission of SARS-CoV-2. We also reached out to Dr. Kelly, as you know, DHEC's Assistant State Epidemiologist, for guidance about masking and shared her full interview with students and staff this week. You can find it on our website as well as our social media pages. What I wanted to do today is just show a brief clip of that video.
Today, we wanted to spend some time to separate fact from fiction about the issue of wearing masks. I'm Amy Wood, Lexington District One's Nursing and Health Services Director, and we're pleased to have with us again Dr. Jane Kelly, Assistant State Epidemiologist with the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Dr. Kelly, thank you for joining us again.
Oh, well, thank you for inviting me.
Recently, we've received many questions and opinions related to the topic of masks. Can you tell us, as more adults get vaccinated, why does someone need to wear a mask right now?
You know, right now in South Carolina, about 41% of adults age 16 and older have had at least one dose of vaccine, and 30%, a little bit more than 30%, are fully vaccinated. Well, that's good news, you know, to have almost a third of people vaccinated, but that also means that 70% are not vaccinated. I mean, 30%, that's nowhere near enough fully vaccinated for us to let our guard down now. Thankfully, we have seen a decrease in new infections, in severe disease and deaths. But, you know, the percentage of cases among children is actually on the increase. And while most children and teens have mild illness, some don't. Now, I don't like to scare people, but the truth is we have seen in South Carolina over 100 cases of the multi-inflammatory syndrome in children and some pediatric deaths. I mean, we still need to wear masks because wearing masks protects people who are not vaccinated, including our kids.
So is it important for students to wear masks?
It is important for students to wear masks because masks do save lives. Masks do work. I can show you study after study after study that demonstrate the efficacy, the effectiveness of wearing masks, and that wearing masks is an important part of prevention of transmission disease in schools. And I'll give you an example. You know, sometimes people talk about, well, aren't the number of cases in schools really low? Do kids still need to wear masks if the cases are really low? And the example I'd like to give you is seatbelts. Now, I've been around long enough to remember when there was not a law about wearing seatbelts. And when that law went into effect, people were upset. A lot of people didn't want to be told to wear seatbelts. But the number of deaths from motor vehicle accidents plummeted. So when that happened, when the number of deaths became low from motor vehicle accidents, did we say, now we can get rid of the seatbelts? No, because the seatbelts were what was protecting people from dying in an accident. We still have virus circulating in South Carolina, and we still have variants that are more contagious, that spread more easily. So yeah, we still need our students and our adults to continue to wear masks.
Why can't masks be optional for those who don't want to wear them?
Well, that's because this virus doesn't care what you want. During a pandemic, we need measures that protect our entire community. We're all in this together. So the reason we have some mask requirements, even for people who don't want to wear them, is because that's the public health measure that has been adopted.
We've gotten lots of questions and phone calls from parents concerned about what Governor McMaster stated yesterday. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. I think you're referring to Governor McMaster voicing his opinion that he doesn't feel that students need to wear masks in schools. And, you know, we at DHEC, we understand the governor, when he makes a policy or a decision or makes a comment like that, he has to consider many different factors. But at DHEC, we have to look from the public health point of view. And where we are right now in the COVID-19 response, you know, yes, we're making good progress. Number of cases are decreasing, but they're not low enough yet. We still have a percent positivity around 5%, and that's of concern. We could still see a surge. We don't want to see that before the end of the school year. You know, we know that there is still community transmission. We don't want to see that community transmission translate into transmission in the schools. We are not close to herd immunity yet. You know, from a public health point of view, we would ask parents, schools, municipalities, you know, keep your mask ordinances in place. They have been working. That's why we have a downward trend. Why would you want to stop with something that is working?
So again, we recognize that certainly people have strong feelings about masking. We certainly heard from them tonight. But we've also received emails, phone calls, and comments from parents and students who are comforted by the safety measures in place. They ask us to err on the side of safety and follow science and the guidelines set forth by the South Carolina Department of Education, as well as other medical experts. And again, I want to stress at this point, the State Department of Education still requires us to continue masking in school. And we believe it's the best way to keep our children, staff, families safe while offering the best face-to-face instruction. We are back in school now 5 days a week after months of disruption. We do not want to run the risk of further disrupting our students during the last 5 weeks of school. Let me remind you that in those weeks, we also have some very important events, such as graduations, prom, spring sports, spring arts events and performances, and these events are often the highlights of our students' year. We don't want to take a chance of negatively impacting those events. Remember, many of those same students lost out on those events last year as well. When we look at all the factors and based on the fact that our medical community recommends masking, the district administration believes it best for these last 5 weeks of school to continue to follow what the health experts are saying and to continue masking. But now I'd like to give our Board of Education members some time to speak about this topic if they so choose.
I'd like somebody to call a vote if that can be. And I want to clarify the verbiage because you said you.
Ms. Berquist, this is not the community participation time. This is the board's time. Thank you.
Okay, then I'll chat after because I'll need clarification.
Ms. Berquist, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the room if you can continue to interrupt. Thank you.
Okay, again, so I'd like to ask the board members some time to have some conversation.
Okay, I would just like to say, I know I heard several people tonight say, let's take a vote. We heard from Lexington Richland 5, they took a vote tonight. That's because Lexington Richland 5 has a mask policy. We do not have a mask policy here in Lexington 1. And I don't have any electronics up here because my phone won't silence, even though I tell it to. So we don't have anything to vote on. And so we can't take a vote tonight. We can't vote in favor for the people that want a mask mandate. We can't vote in favor for the people that don't want masks, because you can't just add an item to the agenda and decide to take a vote on it at the same meeting. There's a process that has to go through, or else we could just show up here every month and decide that we want to vote on something, we want to implement something new, and no one would have a chance to speak on it. So I know there's several people spoke tonight, and they said that they've never been to a board meeting before. So to those people, I just want to thank them. I know I've been on that side of the podium. It's very nerve-wracking. I just encourage y'all to come, continue to stay through the whole meeting. Someone said the board hasn't voted on anything COVID-related. Well, you would be right. We haven't even voted on the millions in COVID funding that we've been given. We were told this is how we're spending some of it, and this is how we're spending the rest of it, and this is how we've spent what we've already gotten. Some people said we should go visit classrooms. Well, I have been denied access to classrooms. I'd love to go visit the classrooms. I'd love to go sit in the classrooms, and all those state law mandates that board members visit classrooms, I'm not allowed to do that. So I encourage you all to continue to show up. One gentleman said that there's us versus them never ends well. And that's so true. I'd love for us all to get on the same page. There's a lady that spoke and said that parents have been banned from the building. And as you all know, I'm a big supporter of transparency. She said there's 15 seats here and 15 seats there, and I count them tonight, and 9 of those seats were taken by district staff members who, nothing against them, because I'm sure they were told to sit there. I'm sure they have other places they'd much rather be tonight. But I just want you to know I do not agree with that, okay? But I encourage you all to come back, stay involved. But unless somebody knows something different than I do, that this is not something that we can vote on tonight. How does what vote on it?
Are there any other board members? I'm sorry, this is not the public's.
So
not
that's
this-
what I was speaking about before when I said Lexington Richland 5. Right, Lexington Richland 5 had a mask policy. So I'm sure they voted to, I guess, do away with that mask policy tonight. We have never had a policy. We've never had a discussion about masks.
And Ms.
So I'm not gonna-
Garris, I want to
Right.
remind you that during the board's meeting, this is a conversation between the board, not the board and the audience. And so if you want to direct your comments or your questions to the rest of the board members or Dr. Little, we can have that conversation. But this is the board's time. And so-
Correct. So I'm explaining how Lexington Richland 5 has a mask policy, or they did until tonight. I'm not sure where they voted to do away with. We do not have a mask policy here in Lexington 1. So we can't vote to do away with it. We couldn't even, vote to enforce the mask policy tonight if we wanted to, because there is a process for that, and you can't put things on the agenda without going through that process.
Thank you, Ms. Garris. Is there anyone else that wanted to make a comment?
I'd like to jump in if I may, and I do want everyone to know that we do hear you. We're parents, and, my children went through this district. Ma'am, don't shake your head at me. If you're going to misbehave, you can leave, okay?
Mr. Anderson, please direct your comments to the board.
We're parents too, and we live in this community, and we're attacked, and everybody up here is doing this. We were elected, but we're doing this with absolutely no pay. But we do feel what you're saying. We do understand, and a lot of us up here agree with you. But we don't have a policy, and we are under a mandate from the state. Now, we can be sued if we don't follow the guidelines. Yes, we can.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Ms. Henderson, did you want to add a comment?
Mr. Anderson, were you finished?
Yeah, I guess so.
So tonight I heard some of the people that came and talked just saying that they need to know that the board is listening. And so I made a lot of notes, but this is just a couple things that I was gonna just let you guys know, because I heard what Jada was saying. And Jada, you said you haven't been in a school. Something unique to me is I've been in a lot of schools this semester. I've been in most of the districts in the Midlands area because of my job at the University of South Carolina. And one of the schools that I was in was one of our schools. And I heard a student say tonight that no one talks at school, at the school that I was at. Sorry about the distraction. And I will tell you, in all of my times that I've been in that school, I've actually seen good things. The last time I was in there, the students were in the hallway and they were folding paper airplanes and they were throwing them down the hallway and they were measuring the distance and they were using that data to do statistical analysis for the class that they were in. And these kids were talking. And so another parent said things about headaches, and I know that we have policies for our kids if they have certain symptoms that they need to check off the list, but I do want the parents to know I've been in your boat. I've had to take my kid for the COVID test so he doesn't have to be out of school for 10 days. And so I'm hearing you. Please know it's not us versus them. I think something we should let them know is, like, as far as parents making the health choices, it's not necessarily that we're trying to make health choices for them, but not everyone agrees. And so one parent might think it's okay to send my kid to school sick. That's their health choice for their kid. Whereas there might be a health choice where I need to mask my kid. I just kind of wanted to let you know that we hear you, and the parents that were asking about when the last time people were in a school. I have been in a school. I have 2 kids, and they're also in schools. And this year, the things that they've been able to do are so amazing. And I really have been so proud of some of the stuff that they've done, whether it's been in their outdoor ed class when they've learned archery, or in their STEM class where they are learning to code robots, in their ELA classes where they're learning about argumentative writing and they're taking their beach towels outside and they're laying around and they're reading. in their science class, they're learning about plants right now. And instead of just learning in bookwork or on the computer like they had been learning with hybrid learning, they're actually planting seeds and they're putting them in the sun and they're hiding them in the shade and they're learning about things. And so I please want you guys to understand, or I want our people to understand, I'm talking to you guys, that we hear you. I long for the day that my kids can go to school without a mask. I truly do long for that day. But if you came in this room tonight and you wanted to talk about math education, or you came in this room tonight and you wanted to talk about grant writing, or you came in this room tonight and you wanted to talk about rural education or getting funding for rural education or teacher certification or how we evaluate our teachers, I feel confident that maybe other than Dr. Little, I would be the expert on that, on this board. I'm not a medical expert. And so our hands are tied. But at the end of the day, we're trusting our health experts. So I think that's all I have to say. I probably just rambled.
Anyone else?
I hate COVID. Go ahead and tell you. I hate any family member who has lost a loved one to COVID. I hate what I asked my staff to do over a year ago when I asked them to stand in harm's way. We didn't know what we were dealing with. We didn't know if it was the flu, and we didn't know if it was Ebola. And anybody who tells you otherwise is wrong. We didn't know. But I asked them to do it, and they did it. They did it through the heat of summer. They did it coming to work, not knowing if they were going home. They did it through the cold of winter. And they continue to do it today. And I asked them to do it. But that's not the thing I hate the most. The thing I hate the most about COVID is what it's done to our community. It's turned teacher against parent. It's turned parent against teacher. It's turned spouse against spouse. And it has shredded the tenets of our very community. And unfortunately, we've seen the worst of it. If you ask me to put my doctor's hat on, I've seen 2 cases of the flu this year. You can draw your own conclusions as to why I've seen 2 cases. Obviously, the mitigation strategies that are being employed in the community are making a difference on the spread of disease, period. That is my medical opinion. You don't have to accept it, but that is my medical opinion, because that's compared to the hundreds of cases I normally see every year for the past 12 years. Number of cases of strep, stomach bug, those kind of things. Are we seeing those cases going up now? We are. We're seeing them going up. Mitigation strategies are becoming less. I'm not arguing for or against that. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing in the community. Okay? There is something about the mitigation strategies that are being employed. If somebody can tell you exactly what those percentages are, more power to them, because I can't. I can't tell you if plexiglass makes a difference. I can't tell you if mask makes a difference. I can't tell you if hand washing makes a difference. I can't tell you if social distancing makes a difference. But I can tell you all of those things combined do. And I can't give you a percentage. I don't know, nor does anybody else. If you ask me to put my board member hat on, South Carolina Department of Education comes out with a mask mandate. You must wear a face covering on public school ground. I am a firm believer in rules. I'm sorry. We teach them to our kids. We stand up here and we tell our kids follow the rules. And the first thing we want to do is break them? No. Those are the rules that are set. If we don't like them, go to the people who made them and ask for the difference to be made there. They made the rules. We then had our governor sign into law a bill that says You cannot be sued for COVID if you follow local health guidance. What does local health guidance tell us? Kids need to wear masks. DHEC says that. South Carolina Department of Education says that. South Carolina School Board Association says that. South Carolina Superintendent's Association says that. CDC says that. But the first thing the governor says is, you won't be sued if you follow their guidance. Last time I checked, the governor is over DHEC. So I'm sorry that your governor and my governor chose political rhetoric over consistency. And that's what's happened. He took the liability, and trust me, he's an attorney. He understands liability. He took that liability and he put it back on us. He put it back on the community. He didn't do it at the state level because he can. He can make an executive decision to do away with it tomorrow. And if he does, guess what? That's the rule. I'll follow it. But he chose to put the liability back on us. So if we violate that, guess what? The tax money that's going to go to kids now goes to someone who sues us. So that's the decision we're being asked to make. I'll tell you how I'm going to decide. I will tell you no way. I'm not going to do it. I grew up in Lexington School District One. I'm a product of Lexington School District One. My kids go here. I have built businesses within this community. I owe this community. And I will not put this community in jeopardy because the governor chose political rhetoric. Now, on a personal note, from the start of this, well, let me back up. Somebody said, don't take it personal. Guess what? When we started this, and we were called murderers for wanting to send kids back to school, I took it personal. When I was called morally reprehensible for wanting to send kids back to school, I took it personal. When I was called a tyrant, I took it personal. And when I was called a questionable Christian, I take it personal. Parent, grandparent, parent, 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 parent. That's what we are. We're parents, we're grandparents, we're deacons, we're Sunday school teachers, we're everything else you can think of. We're somebody's child. And somewhere along the line, kindness went out the door. We spoke about that tonight. Somebody asked for kindness. It's real hard to feel the kindness when you've called everything from a murderer to a lackluster Christian. You know, an old preacher once said, I could write shorter sermons, but when I get started, I just can't stop.
Board, anyone else?
I don't think I can represent that better, so thank you, Dr. Guyton. What I will say is when societies and organizations are faced with decisions that there's no good, perfect answer, you have to figure out what your true north is. And I'll tell you my personal true north is getting our kids back in instruction 5 days a week. I will sacrifice everything else to keep our kids in school 5 days a week. Because for right or wrong, this past year, we had to make decisions that took our kids out of school because we didn't know what we're stepping into. Again, and if you look at some other areas of the world, they are in a world of hurt. At the time, we saw Italy and we saw what was happening there. India right now is in that pain. I mean, there's places across this world that are in a much different spot than us. So if we had not taken this seriously, it could have been very different. So I understand how we got here. And you learn from your decisions and you make better decisions because of what you learn. What I've learned is, and we see this in the hospital, we do a lot of things to control infections. You know, when you go in the OR, when you step into an ICU, and it's no one thing, but it's a collection of things that help reduce your risk of infection. we have reduced our risk of infection, community spread. And what that has allowed is it allowed our businesses to stay open, and it's allowed our kids to get back in school. I don't know anything more conservative, democratic than kids being educated and businesses being open. So I think as a board, we have a moral obligation, not just to our kids, but to our community, to keep our kids in school and our businesses open. So I want to thank this board for their support and decisions today, and Dr. Little and his leadership.
Anyone else? All right, Dr. Little, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Again,
Ms. Berquist, I'm going to ask you to please be quiet. Thank you.
again, thank you, board, for sharing your thoughts tonight. The finish line is in sight, and you know, I hope we continue to finish stronger together. Thank you.
I would like to remind everybody that this week is National Teacher Appreciation Week, and I hope you have taken a opportunity to email your students' teachers, or if you have family members that are teachers, or teachers that you see or interact with on Facebook or social media. Please be sure to extend your thanks to them. This has been an extremely exhausting year for everybody, and I personally just really appreciate our teachers, and so just want to remind everybody to take a minute to just give them some love and thanks.
Hear, hear.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Thank you very much. All in favor, please stand up.